This episode does contain references to sex, the female and male genitalia, and the practice of sexual intercourse. You might not want to listen to this around children unless you're ready to have some really uncomfortable discussions. Listener discretion is strongly advised. What's going on, everyone? It's your host, Anthony Modesto Milian, and if you're an adult with children, it's obvious that you've engaged in sex. And as we all know, sex sells. And it's something that's kept the human race around for a very, very long time. And it's not just something that some people like. A lot of people like to do the nasty, as it's called. And not just people of a specific race, specific socioeconomic background, but everyone, from the poorest person to some of the most wealthy people, including politicians. Recently it came out that a man that's running for governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson, had some sexual proclivities of his own. He allegedly loved watching transgender porn and would frequently visit sex shops in North Carolina. And these are only allegations. We don't know if it's true or not. And the only reason why this is even a discussion is because of how anti-trans Mark Robinson says that he is. But today I want to talk about presidents. Some of our presidents throughout modern history and even the inception of this country have been some freaks. And some of it has been so bad to the point in today's standards it would even be considered illegal, like jail sentence type of things. And today we're going to talk about that on the sexual habits of presidents on Learn Something New Today. What does it mean to be presidential? I mean, we see these guys in their suits, their conferences, they travel all around the world, they represent the best of the United States, and they have a briefcase where they can launch nuclear missiles. But at the end of the day, presidents are humans. They like the same things that we like, they want to do the same things that we want to do. They just have major responsibility. Major being an understatement. Probably a world of responsibility, being the most powerful person in the entire world. But that doesn't exclude them from the lives that they want to live or the lives that they lived before presidency, or even bad habits or criminal habits that they have as well. For example, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the man who signed the Civil Rights Act, was a freak, like an uncomfortably weird person when it came to his sexual proclivities. Like, in today's standards, it would have gotten him a trip to HR or even fired from most, if not all, jobs. And the things that he did were very, very well documented to the point where they made like national newspapers. He was thoroughly obsessed with the size and the girth of his penis. In LBJ's biography, it talks about his obsession with showing people his genitalia. Here's a quote from a member of his staff. If a colleague came into the Capitol bathroom as he was finishing at the urinal there, he would sometimes swing around, still holding his member, which he called jumbo, hooting once, "Have you ever seen anything as big as this?" and shaking it in almost a brandishing manner as he began discoursing about some pending legislation. Even on the floor of the House and Senate, he would extravagantly rummage at his groin, sometimes reaching his hand through his pocket and leaning with a half-lifted leg for more thorough access. And he was obsessed with how his nether region was washed. It even says that he wanted the shower nozzles to be custom fitted that sprayed the president with the force of a fire hose. And he wanted a second one installed to hit him directly in his groin and genitals. And he liked to use the thing that he was proud of. According to Madeline Brown in 1948, she and Lyndon Baines Johnson, he was then a Texas congressperson, began having an affair. She was 23 years old and she met him at an event sponsored by a radio station that Johnson's family owned. She's quoted as saying, "He looked at me like I was an ice cream cone on a hot day and he said to her, 'Well, I'll see you up in my apartment.'" She's then quoted as saying, "At that time, sex, because of my Victorian raising, well, there was a lot of suppression," she said. "Still, I was wild and full of fire. He had a certain amount of roughness about him, and maybe that's what I liked, you know? He commanded. I've been told that every woman needs to act like a whore in bed, and I guess That's what I did. And apparently that's what he liked, because he would often fall asleep right after, and he wore a satin mask that had the embroidery on the side, "Wake me for sex or golf." And his mistress is quoted as saying he was a little kinky. And I loved every single second of it. On a side note, they allegedly probably maybe had a child together, and Lyndon B. Johnson always vowed to take care of him. And then once he died, the child support checks stopped coming. With that being said, our next president, by today's standards, would have definitely got canceled or maybe even thrown in jail. Grover Cleveland basically groomed his wife. Frances Folsom, his eventual wife, had a really undependable father that happened to be friends with Grover Cleveland. Frances's father would rather gamble and race his carriage and do fun things instead of raising a family. So when Grover was around, Frances gravitated towards Grover Cleveland. Throughout her life would send her flowers, arrange carriage rides for her, and even arrange to get her into college. Even when he became president, he was still talking to her and buying her gifts and doing things for her. Now, he was a bachelor at the time. He wasn't married, but she was still very, very young. And when people would question Grover Cleveland about him not being married and him being like an eligible bachelor, he would say, "I'm waiting for my bride to grow up." And many people believe that he was talking about Frances Folsom when he was saying these things. And in 1886, as soon as she turned 21, he married her. You cannot convince me that he wasn't doing things with her beforehand. I mean, I don't know. That's really kind of sick, because he was giving her gifts as a child up into her teen years, and then she was barely an adult when he decided to marry her. And I say he decided to marry her because women really didn't have a say on who they married. Somebody proposed, you got married, and then that was it. There was very little choice in the matter. The 29th president of the United States, Warren G. Harding, the man who's known for being the 29th president of the United States, was another one that was obsessed with his penis, so much so that he had a pet name for it. He wrote numerous letters to his mistress, Carrie Fulton Phillips, with whom he kept his affair a secret for nearly a decade. Many of these correspondence, which finally came to public in 2014, featured code and language, including that Hardy referred to his penis as Jerry. Here's an excerpt from one of the letters that he wrote. Quote, "Jerry, you recall Jerry, came in while I was pondering your notes in a glad reflection, and we talked about it. He was strongly interested and elated and clung to discussion. He told me to say that you are the best and darlingest in the world, and if he could have but one wish, it would be to be held in your darling embrace and be thrilled by your pink lips that convey the surpassing rapture of human touch and the unspeakable joy of love's surpassing embrace. I cordially agree with all he said. Perhaps it is not important, maybe it is not even interesting, but he is devoutly, exclusively for you." I don't know what that mistress was doing to him, but that boy was down bad. He made fan fiction for his penis. The 10th president of the United States, John Tyler, allegedly had a breeding fetish, so to the point where he is the only president that fathered the most children of any of the other presidents. His first wife, Letitia Christensen, fathered 8 children with John Tyler. His second wife, Julia, he fathered 7 with her. Before he died at the age of 72, he had a total of 15 children. Abolitionists at the time called him on his bullshit because they knew that he enslaved people, and they knew that he was potentially getting slaves pregnant as well. Although historians were not able to find any proof, it's believed that John Tyler did get a lot of his slaves pregnant, and even one of his grandchildren is still alive today. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there were some presidents that were extremely straight-laced, and they remained completely monogamous to their partners or their wives, and they were pretty consistent with that. One of those people was Andrew Jackson. He hated indigenous people and prostitutes. There's a story that he went to a small town and he saw the only two white prostitutes in the town, a mother and a daughter, and he flipped the fuck out. But instead of flying off the handle and yelling at them or anything, he invited them to a Christmas ball so people could make fun of them. It's quoted that on the evening of the ball, the two women appeared on the dance floor in gaudy clothes, bringing the festivities to a startling halt. While all the ladies withdrew, giggling to one side of the room, the two prostitutes were quickly ushered out. So he brought them in to dance, had everybody laugh at them, and then kicked them out. It's believed that Andrew Jackson apologized to the wealthy people that were in the ball, but never to the prostitutes that he considered socially unacceptable. Another prude that was president was a man by the name of James Garfield. He's more known for being assassinated than he is for being president. His presidency only lasted 6 months, but he was known for extreme sexual repression, basically not ejaculating for years and months on end. There's a quote that says, as a young man, he was zealous in his religious convictions and believed that godliness required him to refrain from any sinful thoughts or actions. Yet Garfield was consumed by lust and sexual temptation and was both awkward around and deeply attracted to young women. In both cases, such traits were a recipe for trouble. He agonized over this and punished himself emotionally each time he indulged his sexual needs. In today's terminology, he would be considered an incel, someone who is involuntarily celibate because he can't talk to women and women don't really want to fucking be around him. And can you blame them? It's believed that two presidents had an affair with the same German spy. That was LBJ and JFK. They had secret, behind-doors sexual relationships with a German spy by the name of Ellen Ramschick. She was the wife of a West German army officer. And she was doing something crazy because it's said that she was JFK's favorite person to sleep with. And it's also believed that J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI at the time, knew about the alleged relationship and used it as blackmail for JFK and Gerald Ford. Now, these were allegations that were very slim, but Richard Nixon allegedly had an affair as well. From the book Richard Nixon, Nixon's Darkest Secrets, the author and White House correspondent, White House reporter Don Folsom cites anecdotal observations from other journalists that Nixon had an affair with his friend Charles Rebozo, a mafia-connected businessman. One of the biggest pieces of evidence that's provided to prove that this was true is the book is from the Times reporter who allegedly saw Nixon and Rebozo holding hands for a lengthy period of time. Other stories allege that Nixon would cuddle with Rebozo when he was drunk. It's also believed that later in life, when Pat Nixon, Richard Nixon's wife, lived at a Florida resort, Rebozo moved close to the president and reportedly slept right next door to him at some points. I mean, he lied about everything else, so why not lie about, being gay and being president? You're going to get impeached anyway, so what's the... I'm joking. Would they have impeached him back in the day for being gay, or would they have just let him ride it out? I think they would have impeached him. I think they would have done far worse. They could barely accept black people. A gay president? Nah, bruh. Anyway, and then of course there was the one that we all know, and most of us have lived through it. If you're over the age of 30, if you're over the age of what? If you're over the age of 27, then you are probably very familiar with the case of the Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton scandal that rocked the nation. It's alleged that, no, not alleged, it's confirmed. Monica Lewinsky gave Bill Clinton a blowjob on several different occasions. Excuse me, let me backtrack. I'm not going to say blowjob. She gave him oral fellatio. We're professional over here. Very demure. Very professional. But there was allegedly also a case in 1978 where Bill Clinton, when he was governor of Arkansas, allegedly raped a woman by the name of Juanita Broaddrick. And then there was another woman who accused Bill Clinton of groping her. Good Lord. Men are indeed trash, ladies. So with that being said, this is your episode for today. My name is Anthony Modesto Milian, your host. If you liked what you heard today, please go and review the podcast. That'll increase our ranking. It'll get us where we need to be. And then, of course, more people will see us and we'll be able to do cooler things like have more guests on, like our episode of Kiko Garcia where we had Ricky Flores. Anyway, with that being said, thank you. If you want to support, please go and buy something from the merch store, or if you wanted to support us, another way is Patreon as well. Again, thank you, and I hope you learned something new today.